Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with Chef Aaron Clayton. Aaron is a performance chef among so many other things. So, welcome, Aaron. Excited to chat tonight.
Oh, Deborah, thank you so much for having me. Really pleased to be here.
I have to ask, I first heard performance chef, and I think, oh, you are a chef that performs. And I kind of getting the sense that that is you as well. But what is a performance chef?
We're chefs who cook with performance in mind, nutritionally focused meals for athletes, hence the performance. We're there to make sure that they're able to perform on the field, the court, wherever it may be.
I love that. And my other hat is goal strategist. So I'm all about putting yourself in the best possible position to succeed. And I think not just for athletes, but we all kind of need food, right?
Absolutely. That's the nice thing about being a chef. I always say, a lawyer, he's licensed to work in one place. A CPA, she can only work in one place. Chefs, we can work anywhere. People eat everywhere. So that's one of my favorite things about being a chef. It allows for travel. You can relocate and be anywhere and work.
And where did this love of food and cooking come from? Where did your chef journey begin?
Oh, my chef journey began at a very young age. I was that little fat kid running around eating lunch, thinking about dinner. Um, I was always thinking about my next meal. And if you wanted me to do anything or, focus on anything, food was usually a good way to get me to do that. I think, I've heard stories, my parents would tell as when I was a young kid, they would to see if I was listening, they would say ice cream. And if they would know, oh, he's paying attention. So my love of food started at a very young age. And as much as my parents cooked at home, they both were working professionals, so sometimes I found myself, venturing into the kitchen and, it started out simple, just some scrambled eggs or boiled pasta, whatever it was, but, like all things goal-oriented, you grow and continue to experiment and learn.
And so, how did that translate to you becoming a chef? Was there an aha moment, or you just figured, I'm just going to keep doing this because I love it?
Well, the aha moment came to some friends of mine, actually. I was in college working in mortgage finance at the time and absolutely hating it. But every time a group of friends we'd get together, I was always in the kitchen or on the grill doing these different extravagant meals. And eventually, my friends were like, "You know what? You really don't like what you're doing. You want to have a restaurant when you retire someday. Why don't you become a chef?" And I thought about it and I said, I could expedite my retirement and had a conversation with myself and then with my parents and said, I think I'm going to go to culinary school. And they were very supportive and honestly, I haven't looked back since.
I love that because so many people go with the logic and not with the passion.
There's certainly nothing logical about becoming a chef. Let me tell you, it's not the easiest career. It's a brutal industry in so many different ways, but at the same time, for those who are passionate about it, it's exceptionally rewarding. It's taken me all across the globe and back, and there's so many experiences I've had throughout my career that I would have never had otherwise. So I'm fortunate, I love it, but, something I caution a lot of young people thinking about getting into this industry, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of resilience as well, it's and not just from you, from your family and friends, I can't tell you how many birthdays I've missed or funerals, all kinds of different events, just because work demands it, you can't email lunch or put it off to the next day.
You cannot email lunch. That is correct. And you know what always it always strikes me? Every now and then I'll talk to somebody and they'll be like, I forgot to eat today. And it always baffles me. How do you forget to eat?
Oh, every chef forgets to eat. Yeah, I usually don't eat my first meal until I'm finished with work, and it's usually a couple hours after work, and I'm just, like, hitting the wall, and then I get a little dizzy, and I'm like, "Oh, right. Nope, we have to eat." You're just so focused on that next task, And, the timing component of cooking doesn't leave a lot of extra time to just kind of run around and take care of yourselves. And I generally think that chefs as a whole are so focused on serving and taking care of others. I think it's just kind of part of our nature that in a lot of ways we forget to take care of ourselves.
This coming from a chef who specializes in helping people perform better. Cobbler has no shoes. What are some easy things that people who are cooking at home can do to be either healthier or have more splash and performance in the meals that they create?
Um, there are a number of different things they can do. One thing I always suggest is experimenting. Get out there, do something completely different. If you've never tried Korean food or trying to think of other foods that I feel like I try to try as much as I can all the time. But for me, the the process of learning helps you grow and develop so much, especially in the kitchen. If you try to perfect one dish over and over again, you might have the best, let's call it turkey bolognese on the block. But you're gonna only know those techniques, those ingredients, and those skills, so branch out, try new things. That's one of the first things I always recommend people do. In terms of splashing things up, every time I go to the grocery store, I come home with an ingredient I've never tried before, or it's a new thing, and I dive into the research and learn about it that way. When it comes to being a little bit healthier, things like that, I always, always encourage people to work on the margins. Don't strive for perfection, especially if you're just the average person sitting on the couch most days, door dashing this or that. If you're an athlete, different story. But for the average person, just try to be a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. And the easiest thing to do is drink more water, cut as much sugar out of your diet as possible, and you'll just generally be healthier.
It seems really simple. Drink water, eat less sugar,
Yeah.
but it's hard. I know so many people who are pro water. It's kind of ingrained into my brain now. But the sugar thing, I think that's much harder than drinking lots of water. Yes.
It certainly can be, but it could be as simple as removing it from your morning coffee or reducing it a little from your morning coffee or, choosing the less sugary option here or there. Again, we don't need to be perfect, but if we're a little bit better tomorrow than we were today, it makes that transition all that much easier. And when it comes down to it, your tongue is the same as any other muscle in the body. You can train your tongue just the same as you can train your biceps. I've seen my clients' flavor profiles change dramatically over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, and by year 3, they're eating things that I never would have served them 2 years earlier.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. I had a client from a southern background, not exposed to the same kinds of fruits and vegetables that, we might be exposed to out here in California, being the salad bowl of the country. So, it could be something as simple as a fresh tomato salad, where before the only way they'd eat tomato is if it was like ketchup. So, kind of gradually making that transition from, the processed, version to, the fresh version, can look dramatically different, not just on the plate, but in terms of flavor and the way it's, put together.
Is there a trick to getting people to like the vegetables or it's just a little at a time?
My suggestion is always work within what's fresh and in season. That is going to give you the best representation of that fruit or that vegetable. For starters, one, your fruits are gonna be way sweeter in season versus out of season. Your flavor concentration is gonna be so much higher, and just that enjoyment of the product is going to be there where, if you're getting something out of season, the texture might be off, the flavor certainly will be, the price will be as well. Um, but for me, I try to bring as much education to the process as possible. Trying something new can be a little bit scary, of course, for all kinds of different people, not just, food, but anything. So the more information I give them and I explain, hey, this mushroom, I know you don't like mushrooms, but this is an amazing source of vitamin D. And we're growing that. We're building that in your body. This is what we want to do. Okay, great. Now I understand it a little bit more. They're more open to just trying it. And that first step is huge. And after that, it's just having that conversation and building that trust between the client and their chef or the person cooking the food for themselves in most situations.
Uh, and so this concept, I get the high performance athletes, but most of the people that I know, they're always rushing through their day or they always have deadlines. There's always things going on. What can regular people do? Like, through is there uh, a different way to look at food or their diet and what they eat and when throughout the day?
Um, as someone who does not do this well for myself personally, I feel like a bit of a hypocrite in saying this, but consistency. Eating at consistent times really helps the body regulate digestion and understand, like, okay, it's eating time, and eating earlier and not pushing dinner until like right before you go to bed. These are just kind of simple things that, the average person can do and just make it a little bit more straightforward. That planning component is always difficult, when you have a busy life, a busy schedule, but if you can block off some time, especially if you're cooking and try to give yourself an hour or 2 hours. 2 hours might be a little bit much for the working professional, but just block that time off and look at it as meditative time or just, mindfulness time, whatever term you care to use, but if you give yourself that space, you're doing a few things all at once. You're not just cooking food, you're accomplishing a few different things.
And you just described the reason why I went from former non-cook to cook. I love the fact that cooking is something you cannot be connected to the phone, the internet, doom scrolling. You could just be present and work out the
Yes.
things in your life or untangle problems. So I absolutely love that as a
Yeah,
value.
without a doubt. The more connected you are to the cooking process, the better the food's gonna be at the end of it. If you're smelling the food throughout the process, if you're hearing the noises that it makes when you put in the pan and, these things are important. A lot of people ask me, "Hey, how do you know when X, Y, or Z is done?" I said, "You listen, the bubbles when it's boiling makes a certain noise. That's when you know it's ready." So pay attention to these details. Do not be distracted by your phone or I don't know, kids, animals, whatever it is, try to make that time and space in the kitchen something kind of protected and sacred in a way.
Oh, I love that so, so much. And when you cook for yourself, do you do these things?
Sometimes, again, I do a great job for my clients. I'm not quite as on top of this at home. The thing is, after working all day long, the last thing I really care to do when I go home is cook. Um, when I was a single chef, usually it was like a can of soup right out of the can and just kind of drink it because you need the calories immediately or a bowl of cereal, something straightforward. And that answer will be pretty consistent across the board for most chefs. Like a bowl of cereal is my guess the most common dinner for working chefs. When I'm not in the kitchen regularly, I absolutely take the time, dive into recipes, and I'm usually cooking something new at home. I don't have the regular favorites and the regular weekly menu that a lot of families I think kind of gravitate towards. So for me, usually when I'm cooking something at home, it's an experiment. I'm working through new ingredients. I'm researching it. It's not just an hour or 2 long process. Sometimes it's weeks long and I'll, make butter and make butter or, yeah, I think, the sourdough trend was something that a lot of people gravitated towards, but that's how I like to operate at home.
And in theory, you are working because you're developing recipes that you're going to be using
Oh,
elsewhere down the line, right?
absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt. And, when I go out to eat and I'm not cooking, I'm still working. I'm thinking about the intention of the chef. How can I change this and make it performance focused for my clients? All kinds of different things. When I was younger, as a teenager, I would watch the way the servers moved through the restaurants, how they put silverware down. Like, it was just something that I was so enthralled with at a young age and always wanted to have a restaurant when I was older. So these were things that I paid attention to, still do.
That's awesome. And so the work you do now is like a bunch of different categories. So do you want to give us the quick rundown of all of the things?
Sure, sure. I'm working my way out of the kitchen. Just the time in the day doesn't really allow it anymore. I'm still hanging on to it as much as I can, but I have a chef staffing agency where I staff private chefs with clients looking for highly qualified, vetted professional chefs to come into their home and cook amazing meals for them. I partnered in another company called Performance Chefs, where we have a community of performance chefs across the country, whether it be Olympic, collegiate, professional, private, and we are building out standards and practices for the industry, continued education, and so much more. We have regular get-togethers every month with different chefs, across the country with various roundtables, and I just joined the board of directors for an amazing nonprofit called Athletes Meal Plan, where we take food waste, from restaurants, hotels, grocery stores, and I work with other, amazing established chefs in the area. We bring in younger chefs, maybe trying to get their foot in the door, or culinary students looking to get a better understanding of what options are available to them. And what we do is we create these performance-focused meals for food insecure athletes at, the amateur levels, high school, collegiate, junior college, who just don't have access to these good options. And for me, it's such an amazing project and it accomplishes a lot of different things for me. One, we're helping bring up the next generation of chefs, and especially in the performance space. One, we're reducing food waste, which as a chef drives me absolutely crazy. And most importantly, we're focusing on a community that has oftentimes not been seen or overlooked, and we're helping them stay in athletics, and it's not just the function of staying in athletics. Part of that is they're student athletes. They have to be a student to be the athlete. They're staying in school, they're continuing their education and continuing to grow and learn. Um, this for me is the biggest part of this, the impact on the community and its extended benefits over time. This is a project that I'm so privileged to be a part of.
Amazing. And I have to ask, so what do you think it's from your Jewish background that led to this career path, but also the philanthropy thing? We
But
talk a lot about, repairing the world, which is what you're doing by feeding athletes and training the next generation.
absolutely. Philanthropy was always an emphasis of my parents growing up. They always made sure that my sister and I were there when they were helping out the community, donating money. They would explain why, to this day, they still, every holiday season, go to a store, fill up carts, and with all kinds of toys, clothes, whatever it might be, and they go ahead and donate everything. Uh, it's something that left a lasting impact on my sister and I both, so all credit to them on that front. Even when I had my restaurant, I made it a point not just to serve my customers, but to serve the community, and a big part of that community were the homeless folks living behind my restaurant, and I didn't just feed them, I got to know them, they became my friends, they were people I leaned on every day when, it was difficult or I was having a bad day. I got as much out of those relationships as they did. Um and that was, a kosher restaurant with kosher clients, and, it was such an interesting community, serving both, my paying guests and my non-paying guests. But when it comes to what I do now and working as a private chef, one thing that I really like to do, most of my athletes are not Jewish. They come from different backgrounds, different cultures, and anytime I have an opportunity, Rosh Hashanah, for example, I love to bring in apples and honey and explain that tradition and that little bit of our culture and share it with them to the point I've had clients like the next year, they're like, "Hey, isn't it that apple and honey holiday?" "Yeah." "Hey, are we gonna do that again? That I had a good year last year. I wanna try that again." "Okay, let's do it," you know? So, just kind of sharing my background and my culture with people who might not have been exposed to Jewish people, is something I take a lot of pride in, and it's not my focus necessarily, but I understand that I'm not just a reflection of myself. I'm a reflection of my community and my culture and my history. So sometimes that means having conversations surrounding our history or current events, what's going on now and how that impacts us, just because you develop those relationships.
And I love the use of food because everybody can talk about food. It is such a great commonality between any and every culture, and there's always something you can say about it. So there's that bond as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and, serving, matzo ball soup to someone for the first time, they're like, "Oh, this is like Jewish chicken and dumplings." Yep, exactly.
Now, do you have a recipe that you wanna share that we can put, in the article, which you can get if you go to jewishjournal.com/podcasts?
Absolutely, so considering I'm from Los Angeles and I'm a reflection of my community and where I grew up, it's no secret, we're exposed to a ton of Latin food, Latin culture down here. Some of my favorite people I've worked with throughout my career from Mexico, and just having that close relationship, even at a young age, growing up here. Um, let's share a Mexican-inspired shakshuka. And for me, I love roasting off my bell peppers and my onions and my tomatoes the same way I would do like a deep roasted salsa, and start using that as my base and working in some amazing dried chili powders that come from Mexico as well, and build those flavors and work off of that. So I'll be sure to make sure that that recipe is available for everybody.
Amazing. Yeah, and it's sort of like what you were talking about before with when you're cooking, pay attention to the smells and the sounds. I heard it as you were describing this dish, so pretty cool, Aaron.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun one.
And where can people learn more about you and all the chefing that you do?
I would encourage people to reach out to athletesmealplan.org, I believe. We're on Instagram as well. You don't need a dot anything there. I'm also available at performancechefs.org as well. And then my staffing agency is honedstaffing.com.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Do you have any final food for thought?
Final food for thought. When you're picking out fruits, give them a smell. If it smells like the fruit that you're smelling, that's a good one. If it smells like a strawberry, get it. You'll see what I mean. If you smell one that smells like nothing, avoid it. That has no flavor at all. Especially like a melon, if you smell where the vine would have come out of the melon, it should smell like a cantaloupe. It should smell like a honeydew. If it doesn't, the flavor is not gonna be that strong. Our olfactory senses are so connected that smell and taste, they can't escape each other.
And do you have a favorite food and a favorite Jewish food?
Things that is very, very difficult. A favorite food.
Okay, top 3.
Ooh, alright. I love tamales. Everyone who knows me knows I love tamales. I'm a sucker for ice cream as well. That's something that my grandmother and I shared, just an absolute love for ice cream. Um, oh, one more. Um, it's impossible, something new. I'm just gonna go that is my answer. Anytime someone asks me what my favorite thing to cook is, I say something new. My favorite Jewish food, we could have a whole episode on my favorite Jewish foods. I'm gonna go with my most underrated Jewish food, and that's gonna be gefilte fish. I love gefilte fish. There's, in my opinion, no such thing as a bad gefilte fish, but, latkes are really high up there too.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for joining me today. Thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. You can subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and or your favorite podcast platform. And if you go to jewishjournal.com/podcast, you can read the articles and get the recipes that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Try something new. It might be your next favorite thing. Until next time, bon appetit.